All right, today I want to talk about a little bit of introduction to the air compressor. We're going to go over some of the main features of it, a little bit of the safety aspects, and just a little bit about operation. All right, as any towed equipment, you got the pintle ring, 2 chains when you attach it to the truck, just like you would a chipper, cross to keep it cradled if it happens to fall off. Attach it to the truck, and then you also have your electrical component that attaches to the truck itself. All right, it's got the cover with the latches. So each side has a latch. So you want to undo each one. All right, I'm gonna walk to the other side. Second latch, which also has a pin that can go through after storing. That comes out. All right, and the cover comes right up. You have the main engine itself, the compressor pump, 2 air filters, and actually storage for 1 hose. And every morning, like any other piece of towed equipment, you would do a pre-trip inspection. And really what you want to do is check the fluid levels. This is actually checking the engine itself. So we have 1 spot to check oil levels on the engine. And while I'm here, this is actually where you put your fuel. This is diesel fuel only, and this is the cap for that. All right, you have filter, air filter, filter, air filter. This is for the engine, this is for actual compressor. On this side, this is the compressor oil reservoir. So to check it, kind of hard to see right here, but there's a bubble, and there's a green indicator with an arrow, and red on the right side, red on the left side. On the left side it says low, on the right side it says high. The arrow indicator needs to be in the green on the right side, marking high. All right, other parts of the compressor. The tires would also be part of your pre-trip. Checking tread, checking air levels. So at least once a week, actually check the tire pressure. Unless it looks low, then of course you'd fill it up to the adequate level. All right, on the back side of the compressor, you have the actual control panel. And this compressor is very loud. For the sake of noise, I'm not going to start it up today. That way you can actually do that in the field, and it'll be showed how to do that. But on the left side, there is operating instructions for starting, and there's actually separate operation for starting during cold weather. So here's the control panel. This is the auxiliary button. This is actually the glow plug that needs to be depressed each time you start, a little bit longer during colder temperatures. All right, on the bottom here you have the air outlet valves. There's 2 of them. You can actually put 2 hoses on at the same time, and these are now in the off position. To turn them on, you would go like that, off. And during operation on one side, of course, one side needs to stay closed, and if you have a hose attached, that needs to stay open. But during operation, I would also like to say that the cover needs to be closed during operation, because using the air spade is actually a really dirty job, and you want to keep all the components clean as possible. So this has to stay closed. All right, and in line with the outlet valves, the attachment actually is this hose right here. It's a 50-foot section, and on each end you have the part that connects to the air outlet valve. And a safety component that we use is these hose restraints, which actually is called a safety whip check. So you would have one on whatever side you're operating from, one needs to be attached. And how to operate it is slide this part back to make the wiring harness big enough to fit around. Slide it back past the clamps just a little bit. And this tab lines up where there's an opening right here between these two tabs. Slides right in and turn. And what these safety whip checks what they do is, if this happens to get bumped or knocked off and you're operating with that high air, it would catch it. And this is really important when you're connecting two hoses, because if you didn't have these safety whip checks and that high pressure air came loose, you could injure yourself or somebody nearby. So while operating, another safety feature is if you're parked on the curb, we don't always have the luxury of parking in the driveway. So as the hose is stretched out over a sidewalk, you'd want to take a safety cone and set it right by the hose, by the sidewalk, so in case somebody's walking by, they'll be able to see the hose and not trip over it. All right, an attachment point on the end of the hose would actually be connected to the actual tool for doing the soil work, which is the air spade. There's a couple of parts to it. This is actually a cone guard, which doesn't do much good. What it's supposed to be is capture the soil flying up in your face, but it's pretty small. It doesn't do a really good job. This is the nozzle, the main shaft, or the lance as it's called, and the handle. There again, this is where you connect the hose. Safety whip check goes on the end here to the other hose, and once it's connected, there's a safety pin. Another safety feature of the air spade is the trigger itself. All right, I'll go ahead and attach it. It would be just like connecting to the air spade. Tab, open space, connect, turn. There again, you would have your safety whip checks here. Here's the safety pin, 2 holes, connects. Another safety feature is the handle itself. It's what's known as a dead man trigger, so anytime you release it, the air stops. All right, while we're talking about the actual working equipment, we have what we call a soil net. There's some on the market, many different varieties are used, but these are ones we make ourselves. It's basically a pre-ordered screen that we keep in the shop with grommets, PVC, which we align the grommets up, and there'll be a separate video on actually how to make these, but these are homemade. They're very useful in the field, and the point is, take as many as you need because you can set up many on a job site. There's 2 purposes for this really. One, to keep a lot of the flying debris and soil for going out of the work zone. You won't contain all of it, but really it's for the protect the public. And also another feature is when you're working in a small area, it keeps the soil contained in one spot, so you don't have to do as much cleanup, or if you need the soil actually for the site itself, it's contained in one spot. So we have these pointed stakes basically that you put on wherever you need to. Drive them into the ground with a mallet. Make sure it's in the ground pretty good, and you just slide this over. And on these nets, there's always a part that's longer than the PVC. You want to keep that part on the ground and slide it in and repeat the process. And you have a working soil net. Like I said, you can set as many of these around your site as you need to. That's it.